Hey guys, it's Kelsey. I'm back with another scrapbooking process video. This is layout 2 with this beautiful Florabella collection. You can see I just went through my Craft Consortium wood grain paper pad to pull out this really nice whitewash wood plank. I'm really being stingy with the Florabella paper because it is just all so beautiful, and I want to get as many wedding layouts done with it as possible. So layout 1, I only used 112 by 12 with some of the cut aparts, and layout 2, only using 112 by 12 with some of the cut aparts. So definitely being stingy and happy I haven't had to cut into multiple papers to get these layouts done. So the way I'm kind of eking around that on this one is pulling in this extra wood grain from a different collection that I think just goes so well. The white distressed wood grain with this collection is just beautiful. So I'm deciding to kind of do a frame with this wood grain, just to add a little bit of interest around the outside. This is a very bold floral in this collection. I love the 12 by 12 I'm using here, but I'm going to try and find ways as I compose this layout to kind of tone it down a little bit. I want enough of it to show where you can really appreciate it, but I think having this white wood grain will really help tone it down so it's not too overwhelming. So I'm starting by having a frame. I gutted that wood grain so I could use that as other layers throughout the page, but I'm just going to compose the 12 by 12 here, and I love how that looks. I'm inking everything in my Distress Ground Espresso ink pad, which is the most beautiful brown. And now I'm trying to compose my layout. So I have 3 photos here. These are kind of the extra photos that I had to pick from for layout 1. Layout 1 that you saw Monday, I think it was, is my favorite picture out of the group of them, but I couldn't not include these as well, especially this little 4x4, which was a close-up of my grandma's rosary. I really wanted to have a page where that was the focal point. So I really want to use all 3 of these photos on this layout. So I'm just trying to figure out how to compose this because there's a lot of pictures going on, and this is a very bold background. So I'm toning it down. I definitely want to cluster in this upper left-hand corner, and you can see I'm starting right off the back with a glassine bag, one of the white frames, and the white horse. If you saw the last layout, you heard me mention how I'm really going to try to use these more difficult random icon ephemera bits on every page. I don't want them left over. I love the horses in this layout, and even though our wedding was not a Western themed wedding, it was very rustic, romantic. I love horses, I ride horses, and this horse is just dreamy. So I feel like it fits the aesthetic of the wedding. So I'm just trying to compose my cluster at the top here. I got one of those sweet little fabric tags from Jennifer used up, and I'm adding another one of those little heart locks and another little burlap bow. And then I kind of thought I wanted a little bit of a pop of color, so from a scrap of another piece from the last layout, I did a little pink banner coming out of the side of the horse. So right away I decided to get a cluster done. I like how this cluster, even though it's interesting, I feel like it's a complete cluster. There's a lot of white, and it's more toned down, so I feel like it doesn't compete with the floral, and it actually gives your eye a nice place to rest. So I love that. And now that I have that cluster, I feel like I need to focus on my photos. So I definitely want the 2 4x6s matted together, and I'm thinking I'm going to mat the 4x4 separate and pop it up on some foam and have it overlapping some of the other photo, just so you can see that that's the focal point. There are a lot of pictures of me in my dress, of me and my flowers, so I'm not too worried about anything this main 4x4 is going to cover, because I know throughout the pages you'll be able to see everything. The important part of this page for me is that 4x4. So it will cover up a little bit of my bouquet in that one photo. I'm not worried about that because you can see the bouquet plenty in some other pages. But I took a scrap of that wood grain that I have as my frame, and I'm planning on that being the main mat, but I do want to add a little bit more layering. So I'm going to layer both of these on some plain white. I'll ink the white, mat it on the wood grain, and then ink the wood grain. And I think because my cluster in that top left-hand corner, the frame and the glassine bag are running off of the page, I really want to do the same matte. So you'll see I'm kind of leaving the right hand portion of this pattern paper here because I'm going to end up just trimming it off of the 12 by 12, whatever's overhanging. But I wanted to keep that same look on each side of the page so that the embellishment cluster and the photos are kind of cohesive in that way. So I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. I'll get that trimmed. I am going to gut the floral background that's behind this section because so much of it's going to be covered up by these two photos. So you will see me gut that because I know I will use this floral scrap on another layout. I really am trying to be stingy this month. Because I know I don't have enough of this paper to do the rest of my wedding pages, but I want to get as many as possible because I feel like I've used many different wedding or, you know, similar aesthetic type collections to document my wedding with, but like this one out of all of them are like I feel like the closest to the feel I wanted to document my wedding with, and so it's just beautiful. I'm really mad at myself actually that it's taken me this long to go ahead and use this collection, but that's what the series is for. So we stopped hoarding supplies. So I feel like I had to do something big after not participating with How to Kill Kit with Style last month, and so this collection, it was time. But you can see I just gutted that section of the floral, and I'm going to back this with some filler paper just so I have that stability and that hole filled in. And now I will glue down my photos, and you'll just see I end up trimming off the overhang, and I really like how that balances that embellishment cluster at the top because I kind of treated them the same way a little bit. But now that's done, I'm going to matte the 4x4 in plain white, and I'll ink that. I didn't want to do the wood grain frame again. I thought that would kind of be too much, but I'm going to pop this up on some foam and overlap the 4x6 just so it hopefully your eye goes straight to that photo because that's really the thing I want to document on this page. And the other photos are just extras from the previous page. But I'm getting some foam dots on that, and then I definitely want another cluster in the opposite corner of the horse, but I don't want it too big because I don't want to cover up too much of that photo if I already have the 4x4 or overlapping one of them. So I want to do a little cluster in the lower right hand side, and then I kind of wanted that to be it for the embellishment because I really liked how it was just in the two corners, but it just felt too empty after that. So I will add a little bit more down the line. But I'm going to do the right hand cluster first now that I have that photo glued down. I really like this like boho chandelier is another really random, awkward cut apart piece that I wasn't quite sure how to use, but I actually love it within the cluster. So I'm really glad I got that used up too. I got the horse and the chandelier used up on this page, which I was worried I wouldn't get either of them used up this month. But I'm taking the little scrap of the frame that I cut off from the other cluster, the part that overhung the page. I'm adding it to that cluster so I have the frame in both areas and I get to use that scrap. And then I'm just going to layer up a couple of things. I love the chandelier. I'm adding another one of those little heart locks, and then I'm adding my last burlap bow. I thought it would be really nice having both remaining bows on this final page to add a little bit of balance and have that same texture in both corners of the page, and I think it's just the perfect kind of final touch. And I'm glad I got those bows out of my stash because that is the last one in that pack. And I love them. I don't know why I was hoarding them and not using them and forgot about them for so long, but I think on this layout they just were perfect. So I'm going to ink everything really quick before I glue them down, and then that cluster is pretty much done. And that's where I kind of evaluate the page and get stuck a little bit. I do know I want a title. I know I want some gold. That last page you saw me use the Heidi Swapp Gold Color Shine in a different way where I kind of drew around the wreath with it. I kind of wanted to do something similar on this page where I, instead of like faux stitched around the outside of the page, I did the gold streaks. So I'll kind of do something similar on this page where I'm just taking the color shine and just dragging the color around the edge to kind of make an extra little frame. I really want it messy and kind of dreamy, so I'm not being neat with it at all. But I love that pop of gold. I think it really adds some interest. And I really think it helps connect to the elements of the pages, having this gold kind of drawn between everything. I love how that looks. I'll go and I'll do some splatter as well. But I really like using the color shine like this, and that's not something that I normally do. So that was fun. And then I did want to add another gold title. I really wanted to use the same glitter gold Fitzgerald Alpha thicker that I used on the last page. But as you saw on the last page, I had a really hard time coming up with a title that was wedding appropriate. And I just didn't think there was another word that I could have found out other than the one I already used. So I went with my Dear Lizzie thickers. I love these thickers too, and they've also been in my stash for a long time. So I decided that I would just use them to do perfect. I was going to say perfect day, but I didn't realize I was out of D's. So I decided just to say perfect and then the date. The last page had the year, so I figured this page I had some numbers to use, so I might as well put the month and the day. These are companion pages anyways, so I think it's kind of nice that one layout has the year and this one has the date. So 9/25, perfect. That's just what my title's going to be. It makes sense to me. And now this is where I decided I need one more cluster. I could have gone without doing this other cluster. I think the page was fine how it was. But part of me was just like, I need something else. I just need one more thing. So I'm staying on the diagonal line of sight between the two clusters and kind of adding one above this 4x4 for a little bit more oomph. I really wanted to add up a doily on this frame or this page, so I'm adding it around the frame of the two 4x6s and using that as a base for just an extra little cluster. I'm adding a couple feathers, another heart lock, and another floral just to tie everything together. This last cluster really wasn't necessary, but I like how it turned out in the end. But I could have gone with or without it, I think. But the little heart I am going to pop up on some foam so it has some dimension, just so everything's not so papery and flat. So it just takes me a minute to get all of that situated. But I think I'm done after I get this cluster down. So this was layout 2. I'm glad I got one of those fabric tags used up, another frame. And I'm just having so much fun using this collection. So it's been a minute since I've had a collection that I was like, oh my gosh, I love it. I'm having so much fun. This one is definitely one of them. I really wish I could find more of it. I could only find the paper, and I'm pretty sure I found it on Etsy. Because I couldn't actually even find a scrapbook company that was selling it. So I'm glad at least I got the paper, I guess, because it is beautiful. But I think this final cluster is almost done. I don't know if I've already done the splatter of the gold Heidi Swapp color shine. I might go in and add that if I haven't already. But I think the close-ups are coming here in a minute. There's the splatter. Final touch. And here are the close-ups. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.